So I just got the chance to play about 3 hours of Borderlands 4 at the 2K offices in California, and I have some thoughts. Full transparency, 2K flew me out to their studio to play the game in person on a PC instead of doing like a remote thing. And as a result, they're sponsoring this video, but I did clarify with them, I'm allowed to say whatever I want to say, positive or negative. And they agreed to that, which is always reassuring that a developer and publisher is willing to like take that risk for me to say something either positive or negative if I didn't like it. And it shows that they're confident in the product that they have here. And I think that's a really good thing. And it's backed up by my experience with the game, because what I think they have here is something pretty cool. It's shaping up quite nicely, at least based on what I played, and I'm going to tell you about it in this video. Like I said, we got to play about 3 hours of the game at their offices in California. I played off of PC, and I was playing on mouse and keyboard, as you'll see in my gameplay footage. They also specified that the version of the game we were playing was an older build from months prior. So while I was playing in mid-May, they said this was months older than that, and that tons of improvements had already been made, which is cool because the version I played was pretty good. So I was like, oh, it's better than this? Cool, I like that. So I want to clarify that, you know, things are only going to get better and better. And even so, what I played, I thought was pretty solid, especially for this point in development. So I want to give them credit for that. It seems like they're making really good progress. The portion of the game I'm allowed to share with you today is called the Fade Fields. I did also get to play a late game vault. However, I can't share footage of that, at least not yet. The grasslands are a section of the open world that they've built out for this game, and it gives you a taste of just what they're doing differently here. The map is expansive, it's big, and they also have added in a bunch of new dynamic elements too, dynamic encounters and little things that'll pop up for one player but not others to keep the open world feeling fresh, so it's not just like one gigantic linear level that's sort of open. They've actually tried to make it feel more alive and, again, dynamic. They've also added a handful of new movement mechanics that complement the old ones. Things like double jump, zip lines, glides, dashing, vehicle, traversal, all of it combines into something that really flows nicely, and that they tie into also environmental challenges, puzzles, and even some of the boss arenas. And I love how some of these you can just stumble onto while you're exploring. This one that I did against Sydney Pointy Legs, a sort of mini boss in an arena guarded by a bunch of other enemies. This was not a boss fight I intended to kickstart. I was just exploring the open world and then found this like mini boss fight with a ton of crazy loot and unique elements to it. And it was just something that happened. And I personally love that because I'm a player that's motivated often by challenges or, again, just cool discoveries. It's why I love games like Elden Ring, is finding a boss hidden in some corner of the map you thought that there was probably nothing in, but then you find a cool, unique boss fight. I love that kind of thing. And it's very much present here in Borderlands 4, which I really enjoyed. I mean, just rounding a corner thinking you were just going to find like a cliff and then finding something like this was really cool. And of course, because it's a Borderlands game, there's tons of weapon variety, and they fine-tuned all sorts of different aspects of the weapon system. So now each individual part of the gun is broken down into different manufactured components, and when the gun spawns, those components can complement each other or fight against each other. But you can build out synergies within the player character skill trees to make sure that you specifically are benefiting from certain manufacturer components or from certain play styles within certain weapon archetypes. That's a really complicated way of saying that there's a bunch of weapons that have all sorts of crazy unique aspects and components to them, and you can build out your play style however you want. And you can get some crazy complex and nuanced builds based on how you like to engage in certain encounters and based on the playable character that you choose to go through the game with. We had access to Rafa and Vex, and I did try both of them. My footage with Vex is actually from the Vault mission, which again, I can't show you. And she was probably my favorite, but they both played very, very differently. And I could see experimenting with each of them a good bit, finding which one you like the most. One thing I will say I didn't really get a good handle on was the writing. Of course, we were playing pretty specific sections of the game, and we didn't really get a big deep dive into the writing or the narrative or the characters and how they interact. Most of our time with the game was about playing the game, not listening to like cutscenes or dialogue. So I can't really speak too much to how the tone of the writing is, or whether it's super campy or super cliche, or if it's more grounded. I'm not totally sure. What I do know for sure, though, is that we had developers on the project that were in the room with us. Specifically, we were in the room with Anthony Nicholson and Graham Timmons, who, as you can see, are the senior producer and the creative director on the game. Of course, you'll recognize them from this PlayStation State of Play that they did at the end of April, showcasing this game initially. And they said something very interesting, which, again, I haven't really had the chance to confirm myself, but they said they specifically wanted to make sure the tone of the game and the writing was grounded within the world itself. They didn't want the dialogue or the jokes to feel like they were just memes from out of nowhere that had nothing to do with what was going on. They wanted it to feel like all the characters actually lived in this world and existed there. They said they didn't want dialogue to feel out of place. They didn't want like an offhand comment to feel like, oh, that was just their attempt at a Hawk Tuah joke. Like they didn't want that. They wanted it to feel native to the world. And that is what I would hope to hear. Like that's a good thing to hear for me. But whether or not that ends up being the case, time will tell. Again, I just didn't have the chance to really sink my teeth into it, but they're saying the right things, at least in my opinion. I prefer it to be more grounded in the universe as opposed to just chasing cheap laughs, But speaking of cheap, it really seems this game is not that. They have put a lot of effort into little bitty quality of life features too. They have things like full crossplay for up to 4-player co-op if you choose. Even little bitty features like the ability to customize the difficulty per player during co-op are present, which means that if you were playing this game in a big co-op party and maybe one player on the team is struggling with co-op or struggling with the challenge of a boss fight or something, they can customize their difficulty independent of yours. All of the loot generated is also independent, which means everybody is welcome regardless of skill level. Everybody can have the experience they want to have. And something that made me smile was, of course, the mention that they are also bringing back 2-player split screen co-op, which is a staple of Borderlands. I played Borderlands mostly in college with my roommates, where we would just vibe and chill in the basement of the little house we had rented for college, and we would just play Borderlands for hours and hours when we probably should have been studying. And it was great. And I look back on it very nostalgically, and I love it. And hearing that maybe we could do co-op split screen again is just really cool to me. And it's something a lot of other companies and games have dropped and abandoned, but they're doing it for Borderlands 4. And I think that that's awesome. And I want to give them praise for that, because I think we need more of these games that have couch co-op. I love couch co-op. It's fantastic. So that's awesome to hear. And of course, there's other quality of life improvements, such as overhauled loot, the drop rates being adjusted, trying to make sure that legendary weapons feel special and unique. All of the things, again, that I think you would hope to hear in a game like this. As for the moment-to-moment gameplay, I will say that most of the missions that I played, which again, were not many, given this was a more narrow selection of gameplay, most of the encounters were fairly straightforward, fighting through waves of enemies, working my way through a large base, or into a larger boss arena, only to fight one massive boss that had his own set of waves of enemies. Again, all pretty standard Borderlands stuff. It won't come as a surprise to you if you know these games that it works this way. And that's why it's a good thing that the gunplay is really tight. I mean, Borderlands is kind of made or broken on its gunplay and the variety of its weapons, and based on what I experienced, they did a pretty good job here. There were the standard moments where I might feel like a weapon wasn't as good as a different type of weapon, or maybe this one needs a balance adjustment against another, but that's stuff that I'm sure they are fine-tuning as we speak, and so it's not really fair for me to complain about an early version of the game maybe having a shotgun that's too OP or too underpowered. The one thing, if I have to give one note, is that sniper rifles do not feel powerful enough. That's the one thing. Like sniper, marksman rifles, they didn't feel powerful enough to justify like the really slow speed, the ADS speed. Like it just didn't feel right. It felt like they needed to be more powerful. I told them this at the studio as well, and they seem to already be aware of it. So I'm just preaching to a brick wall, I guess, at this point. But, nonetheless, I'll say it. But far and away, my favorite part of what I played were the boss fights. The vault that we got to do, which was a later game section, which again, I can't show you just yet, but trust me, was really cool. And the various boss fights that I engaged with in the open world, one of which I accidentally found, and another was part of the main story that we were encouraged to go through. And of course, you can go back through these even after you've completed them to continue grinding out higher level drops on certain weapons if you want them. You can pursue it however you see fit. If you want to just tackle the same boss 15 times, you can do that. Or if you want to just kind of go meander through the open world, you can do that too. What amazed me though was just how open-ended everything was laid out. Like typically in Borderlands, at least the way I've traditionally played them, is it's pretty straightforward. Like you just kind of go from place to place, you follow these objectives. There might be some side activities you do here and there, but in general, you're going through the motions more broadly. But with this game, I often had moments where I just kind of paused and I went, okay, where do I want to go next? You know what? I'm going to go look over there. And that little moment of freedom was really, like, frankly, refreshing. It was really cool, especially to go and then find something there like a cool, unique boss fight that other people in my play group didn't get to see. And that was one of the cooler things, was after we finished playing, being able to compare, oh, did you do that side quest? Oh, did you find this boss? Did you see that thing over there? What dropped for you when you beat that boss? You know, that's one of the things that I think makes Borderlands special and that people really connect with. And I was really pleased that it's all present here. It's really tight and I had fun. I don't know what else to say. I had fun. Now, of course, because I only got a little sliver of the game, it's too early to say anything specific about like the writing or the balance of co-op encounters or how the game functions when you're 10 hours deep and you've got a bunch of extra loot, how the in-game economy works, whether drop rates are balanced or not over the long term, and how the end game works. We don't know any of that, and we won't until launch. But the point of a preview is to give players a taste of what they have here and hopefully to entice them into buying the game when it launches. And I think they did a pretty good job of that here. While I would have liked to have played more of the game without any sort of training wheels or guardrails or anything, I had a good time. And that is not something I can say about every game I do previews for. So I really enjoyed this. I'm excited to see what the game holds when it launches. Everything from the gunplay to the movement to the boss design, the open world layout, it all seems pretty solid, and I had a good time. And I'm excited to see how they fine-tune this closer to launch, because all sorts of things like AI behaviors within enemies, the balancing of certain weapons over others, all of that's going to be overhauled and improved as we get closer to launch. But based on what I played, I think they're already in a pretty good spot. But let me know what you think of Borderlands 4 in the comment section below. Does it look good to you? Are you going to check it out? Let me know. I'm interested in hearing, because if you're interested in it, I will talk about it more, and it will give me an excuse to play more. So please tell me if you're interested. Thank you again to Gearbox and 2K for sponsoring the video and giving me this opportunity to cover the game like this. It's really cool to get to go out to the studio and actually play the game on PC in person. That always helps a ton as opposed to like remote events. So that was really, really cool. I appreciate the gosh darn heck out of you guys for watching. And again, much love. I'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses. And thank you again to 2K for sponsoring this video.